Anandarupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupaha Shivoham Shivoham Om Namo Buddhi Ahankara Chityani Naham Nacha Shrotra Jive Nacha Ghrana Netre Nacha Bhoma Bhumi Natejo Navayu Chidanandarupam Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupam Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupam Shivoham Shivoham Nacha Prana Sangha Navai Panchavayu Navai Sapta Dhatu Navai Panchakosha Navak Pani Padam Navastupayu Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Nami Dveshuragaha Nami Lobho Moho Madhanaiva Me Naiva Matsaryo Bhavo Na Dharma Na Chartho Na Kamo Na Moksha Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Na punyang na papang na sukhang na dukhang na mantra na tirtha na veda na yogiyam aham bhojanam naiva bhojam na bhokta Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Namritu na शङ्का न मे जाति वेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धु न मित्रं गुरुः नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपं विभूतितच्च सर्वत्र सर्वैन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्नमेय चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्।
আমরা এখন চ্যান্টিং করব। আমি চ্যান্টিং শুরু করছি। ওম वाग्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनहो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठिता।
ओम वाक्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता
आविहि आविहि मेधि वेदस्य मानिसः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहसिः अनेनोदितेन अहोरात्रान् संददामि रीतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तद्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्
अवतु मामो अवतु वक्तारम्
ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वा प्राणचक्षुः।
ओम
श्रोत्रमाथः बलम् इन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि
श्रोतमधो फलनानि च सर्वाणि
सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदाम्
सर्वं
माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यात् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्
मां ब्रह्मो निराकुर्यात् मम ब्रह्मो निराकरोत्
अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु धर्मस्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु
धर्मस्ते
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेव अवशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहनो भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ शान्नो मित्रः शान् वरुणः शान्नो भवति हरिओमः शान्नो इन्द्रः बृहस्पतिः शान्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमः ब्रह्मणे नमः ते वायु त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तत्मामवतु तद्भक्तानामवतु avatu mam avataram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti.
Om Bhadrang Karnebhi Shanvam Deva.
Om
Bhadrang Bhushema Shaviyajutra. Tirayangoi Tustuvang Shatanovi. Bashimo Devahi Tangayatayu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. আমাদের আলোচনায় প্রবেশ হচ্ছে। আজকে আমাদের আলোচনার পর্ব ডিভাইন লাইক টক 129 1 to 9, আজ 25শে সেপ্টেম্বর 2022 রবিবার। I'm now calling from doing the program from Chicago, United States of America. So I'll be using English for my discourse today. Today's discussion is 129th of this Divine Life series in the digital mode, and this is today the topic is essence of the Vedas, Vedasar, essence of the Vedas. We know that Vedic studies have been considered by the Indians, particularly the main community of Indians, as the principal source of the knowledge and wisdom for their life. And actually, this has been accepted globally now by various, leading scholars and thinkers of the world as the mother source of the origin of wisdom. And different kinds of wisdoms at different parts of the world has actually, taken a support and maybe inspired and with the replication of many things and with the evolving things thereon from various parts of the world. The Vedas is actually a source of knowledge. This knowledge is actually wisdom. This is different from our empirical knowledge. The difference is the empirical knowledge is based on the understanding through senses. 5 senses of walk, 5 senses of understanding. Panch Gyanendriyo, Panch Karmendriyo. And these senses are all dependent upon the externalities and oriented to the externalities of the world. Here, the Vedic source, the Vedic wisdom is not dependent upon the externalities. It is actually something which is drawn and discovered from within. So anyone who wants to understand the Vedic sources has to follow a certain method which is different from learning things from other areas. This has been identified and mentioned very squarely by Max Muller when he has mentioned in the sacred books that Indian philosophy cannot be understood through studying the philosophy. Indian philosophy is something which if you want to understand, you need to practice it, you need to absorb it in your life and experience that. Therefore, there only you can understand this. The method called is a experiential. It's not an experimental. Experimental is something which depends on the external factors which lead to the experimentation of the theory and thoughts. But experiential is some other thing which has to be experienced by the individual, the person, on her own or on his own in his or her life, and that has to be experienced in the unique way, unique method. That is the thing. It's mentioned that the realization of God is different, though it is the same fundamental truth, is the same universal truth, is the same cosmic truth. At the same time, the understanding when it comes to an individual, when devotee tries to get a realization of God, the realization comes to the person in the unique way the devotee expects and orients herself or himself. So, each realization is different from the other. However, all the realizations have got the grounding, and there is a similarity among all the realizations, and therefore it is universal. And at the same time, the Vedic wisdom is impersonal. Why it's impersonal? Because it does not depend on any individual to explain and to monitor. It is you and me, anyone in the world, any common man in the world, any common person in the world who can have an experience of that. And that experiential is such that when you follow the same method, you achieve at the same, you earn the same realization or same kind of realization of the supreme truth. The supreme truth is embodied in different ways, in different factors and in different forms also, and in a formless condition. So the kind of mind, the kind of process, the kind of orientation the person has got in his or her being, accordingly the person moves forward to have an understanding and realization of the supreme. And based on this, the classification of Vedas was made in the beginning. Now in the modern era, when we teach management and when we run the companies in the world, we make it like a segmentation. Strategic management or managing the thing best way is a segmentation. Companies, when they are planning to enter a new market in the world, or they are planning to launch a new product or kind of diversification in the world, anywhere they need to have a identification: whom, who, where, when, and what. So these are the 5 W's they have to identify, and in this process, they have to categorize the products, services, and orient it to the category of people called segmentation. And the same kind of thing, it is actually originated in India. Vedic period is a period when the sages have thought of segmenting the human capabilities into different categories, and segmenting the different, human orientation into different categories. There's a very nice observation mentioned by one of the person who was associated with Pondicherry, was very close to Pondicherry Mother, Short Prem. He was noting down the discourse of Mother day to day for a long period of time, and he depicted and published that in 13 volumes called Mother's Agenda, volume 1 to 13. And there's a very unique source of discourse between and transaction of knowledge and thoughts between the mother of Pondicherry and her very close or closest disciple, Sat Prem. Sat Prem has a background of having worked in the Second World War in the South American front, and he was thrown from the fighter aircraft in the Amazon jungle. And in the Amazon jungle, he was in the midst of very deadly animals, but he was not harmed by any of those animals, including the very dangerous kind of python which was known in a part of Amazon, and nobody dared to enter that place. But then, fortunately, luckily, by the grace of God, this young person at that time, he could get himself out of that, and he could come out of the jungle ultimately after almost 12 or 13 years of traveling by the jungle in different ways. This man later on became a very powerful scholar at Paris, and later on came to Pondicherry, became a devotee of Sri Aurobindo, and very close to the Pondicherry Mother. There was a specific discourse between the mother and Sat Prem on one day, and that continued for a subsequent periods of time. wherein he had asked mother that, what is that when I try to realize God as an African, uh, if I try to, if someone else try to realize God as a South American, if someone tries to realize God as a, white American, if someone from two extreme ends of Europe tries to realize God, one from extreme northern region, the other one from extreme southern region, what if the person is from the extreme oriental period, oriental place, extreme end of Japan? And also, what if someone is from, midland like India? So, what are the differences? Could you please mention that, how would be the realizations taking shapes among people of different varieties and origins, and why are these so? There is a very important, kind of discourse we started from volume 9 and continued up to volume 11. And of course, there were other discussions in the midst of that also, side by side. Now, the main point that I'm not getting into the details of that, I'm placing the synoptic point of that. And in the synoptic point, the mother mentions that, the diversity is at the human level, empirical. The non-identities are empirical and identities are also empirical. Meaning an Indian is an Indian, considers him or her as an Indian, that way considers that he or she is different from others. An African and some South American and American and European and Asian, and a person from any corner, any part of the world considers herself or himself as a unique person. And yeah, of course, very important also. Everyone is equally important. But then when the person actually meditates upon, tries to have a realization of God, and tries to have an experience of being with God, this is very difficult experience. This is a very long drawn thing. After thousands of years of meditation, there are examples when the people who were after this God realization, they could not even achieve in one life, had to continue over and over the lives. But there are others who are very fortunate, who can get immediately. There was a story mentioned by Sri Ramakrishna, and is there in his gospel. And of course, the same story I found in one of the elaborations of Saint Peter, and not in the New Testament, but in an elaboration wherein a point is mentioned, the same kind of thing. Only difference is here, Sri Ramakrishna talked about a tiger having come and taken away the person who was meditating. The point is the person was there in the jungle. He was meditating deeply and for a long period of time. And an observer came over there. He is an observer person. He was actually, out to search for God by virtue of his inner core of love, but then wasn't able to find out. But he did not have any process of meditation, was not doing any kind of meditation. And he saw from a distance that a tiger is coming, and he, climbed up a tree. And from the tree, he found a person is doing a meditation, and the tiger came roaring, and the person was unperturbed. He was not moving because he was doing a meditation unto God, and he thought that it's the God's desire. And for some reason or the other, God had desired that way. So the God came in the form of a tiger and took away the person by mouth. And so that means one can imagine that the person has lost his life thereafter. So this is what has happened. And after the tiger had dispersed, the person thought that, okay, here is a place. This man has done the meditation for a long period of time. So that's what I guess. And so this place should be an auspicious place. And okay, let me do a try. So the person immediately over there sat over there and started thinking of God. Oh God! Immediately, with a in a while, God had appeared before him and said, "Tell me, what is that you are expecting?" He said, "No, I am not expecting anything. I was, willing to see you. I was willing to have a gaze of you as a darshan of you. So I've got, but I have a question. If you can answer my question, I don't have any other thing to ask for. I don't need anything from you. I need only your love for me. But then again, I have a question. This has arisen in my mind just now. What has happened actually? What is that? This man who has been doing meditation for such a long period of time, and you had sent a tiger to take this man out, and I did not do any meditation. I have just now come here and sat on this, and you have come to me. Oh, what a graceful you are, and what a difficult person you are. At the same time, you are so graceful to me, and you have appeared before me. You have given me darshan, and you are still here. And you are so cruel to the other person. He was doing meditation for a long period. That's what I guess. And he was unperturbed. Even when the tiger was rushing, he did not rush away. He did not fly away. He was sitting there, he had probably in his mind the confidence that God would save him, or it is the desire of God, and you had desired to devour him as in the form of a tiger, in the abode of a tiger. So, this was when God had answered, saying that it is the time when occurs, then the time for your union with God also occurs. It is your time, it is your destined time. And how did it occur? Don't you know that you had that kind of, bleeding inside your heart for me? Don't you remember? You were bleeding inside your heart for me. You wanted to have a disparate darshan of me. You were having a disparate condition within yourself, which nobody else could understand from outside. But I knew, I know, I understood. Therefore, I am here. I am with you, shall remain with you. Now, this story has been mentioned by Peter in a different manner. That was a lion, and that was not meditation in a seating form. That was, with the hands raised to the sun, the solar body, the sun as God, and asking for illumination, illumination, illumination. And that, lion had come, and the lion had, taken that person away. The person was, asking for illumination in a loud voice, but, in the mind, he was disturbed a little bit. So the lion took him away. The other person who was there on the top, a corner of a hill, and then he came down, and then he stood up there, and he was thinking within his mind that, oh God, if you could appear before me as a illumined body, I'll consider myself really graceful, graced by you. Be graceful to me. And then suddenly he found the light was there in his front, and he understood that it is the divine light which has appeared before him. So the point is that the stories are there to facilitate our views and ideas, and to think about it in a deep manner. Our sages had thought about that in a very, very intimate form, and very, very meticulous way. The most important sage here in the Vedic period, who has come up with this, entire guidance for the Vedic literature, Chatur Veda, is Sage Vyasa. Sage Vyasa, Vyasdev, is a person who has got an inheritance from the so-called lower strata of the society. His mother was a lady from a house of a fisherman. So this says Vash has a origin with a inheritance wherein the mother's origin is as a fisherman. Parashar, the father, was a worker, meaning a sage and a worker. He used to work in a agriculture, meaning he was a chashi, he was a plower, he was a cultivator, he was a person engaged in paddy field, in a other fields and growing food for others, and at the same time doing meditation. He came up with a Samhita, Parasa Samhita. That is the origin of Karma Bad. The Karma Bad, which is there in Bhagavad Gita, is actually, more or less the same as that is there in Parasa Samhita. And that's the, original inheritance of Vyash. So one can understand that the Vyash's origin has got an origin grounded in the world. It is not apart from the world, it is grounded in the world. So when Vyashdev was doing a meditation, that is there in the, mentioned in one of these, Samhitas, as that he was doing a meditation of goddess Saraswati, Devi Saraswati. Because, he thought that Sattva Guna is the main thing that I have to proceed. And incidentally, in the Chandi, it has been mentioned, and it has been mentioned in many other places, and it has been very categorically repeated in many other places. There's so many other places where it is repeated that, the Sattva Guna, goddess form is only Saraswati. Saraswati is the Sattva Guna. The Supreme Mother in her, condition of Sattva takes the abode of Saraswati. But when she takes the abode of Lakshmi, when she becomes the same person, becomes Lakshmi. When she becomes Lakshmi, she is no longer in Sattva Guna. Lakshmi is in Rajaguna. So the same Supreme Mother, she turns into a Rajaguni, Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is the most coveted goddess in the world. Everybody wants resources, everybody wants to have money as a position, name, fame. All these are endowed by Lakshmi. So Lakshmi is in Rajaguna. But again, now Durga Puja is, knocking at the door. It's already started in many places. And Devi Durga is a Tamoguni mother. She is in the Tamoguna. Now why? Saraswati did not do any other activity than creating wisdom, maintaining wisdom, and fostering wisdom forward. Only wisdom. She is a purist. Only wisdom she has fostered forward. And therefore, she has maintained and she has always adhered to the Sattva Guna. That's why the symbolic color of Saraswati is pure white always. Lakshmi is a creator of resources and maintainer of resources. Jangobalko started the sage Jangobalko, when he started his separate meditation apart from the Guru Vaishampan, he started thinking about the entire cosmic creation. And then the first mantra that had appeared to him is Ishavashyam idam sarvyam yat kinch jagutyang jagataha. And then there is a directive principle, tena taktena bhunjita magrita kasasit dhana. So the first thing is understanding the origin and owning of the entire resources of the world. When it's resources, it includes every resources. The wealth of the world, material, and any kind of description of wealth, maybe financial, maybe any kind of, and the human, the wealth of human content, the wealth of human potent. Everything is there. Now, whose is there? Is the God, who is the creator of that, maintainer of that. Maybe time may come when he can appear as the tiger or the lion and take away the soul. Maybe it may happen. Why does it happen? That is a sequence of things which Parashar had first identified. God has created something which is autonomous. Now, these days, in artificial intelligence, when people want to, create things through a replica and coordinate control things of the world through that replica, kind of human intelligence applied through machineries. And now this mind is people are trying to infuse mind into that. A part of that is already done. Meaning mechanistic mind they can do, it's partly done. They're going ahead with the non-mechanistic component of mind. Now, what happened is this karma, when we initiate a karma, the first beginning of that comes in the thoughts of the karma. This was very nicely understood by Patanjali and mentioned by him, which is actually being used by the entire Buddhist scriptures, including the basic fundamental scriptures of Majjhima Nikaya. Sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. A thought leads to an action. Repetition of the action leads to an impact in the character, and a character actually determines the destiny of the individual. So karma, the action. There are people who have gone to the extent of maligning our karmabad or the doctrine of karma of India as fatalism. Actually, this term has been used by many scholars from India with a view to get a Fulbright scholarship. Many have done this because, if you do this, then those who are there in the selection body, they will approve, and they have approved and they've done. And this is repeated so many times. There are so many names. Let us not get into the names. Those who have mentioned that India's karmabad is fatalism, they have not only done an injustice to India's spirit of things, but also willfully or unknowingly maligned India, with a view to, create a position for themselves or create a gainful position for themselves. Had some gainful objective and personal selfish objective. Because of that, they've done this. Because our karma bhav does never say that you don't do the karma. This issue of Satyapad carries a editorial, this October issue, which is already there in the website. One of our important members, Mr. Ethan Boshak, he continuously uploads it on the website www.satyapad.org, SATYERPATH, single word, .org. And there, it's there in the, it's in Bengali. Now, from January, we'll initiate a process of having the editorial translated also side by side in English. That we'll introduce from January. Now, it's mentioned. Lord Krishna is mentioning to Arjuna, Tasmyat asaktaha satatam karyam karma samacharaha. Arjuna was deluged, was depressed. Huge depression came into his mind. Why? Because, when he came to the, field of war in the Mahabharata, in the Kurukshetra, and he wanted to see who they are going to war with. So he requested Lord Krishna, who was driving the chariot. He was the Sarathi, meaning the person driving the chariot, which Arjuna was using for the war. And he requested, and also Arjuna used to consider Lord Krishna as his friend, Sakha. So he requested, Sakha, you take my chariot in the middle of two armies. I want to see whom I have to do the war with. I want to have an idea about it. So he was taken to that. And the moment he saw that on the other side, whom he's there to kill, they're all his either, respected kings or the masters, or the highly regarded persons. So he had fallen, his mind was now disturbed, and the gandiva, the weapon from his hand, had fallen there down. He was trembling in the, and then he also sat on the floor of the chariot and saying that I'm not going to do the war because, if I do this, there will be a lot of social consequences, social casualties, there will be imbalance in the society, and I'm not going to kill them. So in this perspective, and I'm not going to do the war. He is a person who is actually given the responsibility of waging the war, and he was always telling that I'm going to follow you, O Lord. But again, when it comes to actually do that, he, gave preference to his own personal emotion, and did not pay heed to what the God had a desire of. So this is the dilemma which was also mentioned by the mother of Pondicherry that day with Satprem. She was mentioning, see, when we are doing our divine work is something which is a dedicated work. It is actually from the Bhagavad Gita, the principles are drawn. And these principles are there in the beginning in Parasa Samhita also, where the karma Bhat says the karma you are not doing for yourself. Karma you are doing for the creation, for the universe, and the universe requires karmas of different types. And that's why you have to continuously do the karma. Now, and if you do the karma, then only you become a winning person, otherwise you are not. So you do the karma, you have to continuously do the karma. And, that was the kind of advice given by Mother to Satnam that day as well. So when she was mentioning that, people with diversified background, a person from Africa, America, from the Europe, from Asian region, from various parts of India, people with diversity, people coming from any cultural background of the world, any shape and size of the person, any identity of the person, any color of the skin of the person, any standard of education of the person, any standard of economic being of the person, does not matter at all. Lord is universal. He is the supreme truth. When I'm saying he, I'm not mentioning this he is a gender specific he. Purushottama is Purusha. This Purusha is not only male in identity. That's why this Ardhanarishwar, the concept had to be depicted. Why? Because people started thinking that he is only a male person. And then there was a misnomer. So God had to take the form of a Ardhanarishwar. So it is the same being having, all different descriptions. Like, when Hiranyakashipu's case occurred in the case of Prahlad, then Nrisingha avatar, meaning God had to appear in the form of a combination of a lion and a man. Half of the body was a man, the lower part was a man, and other half of the body, the upper part was a lion. Nrisingha is a combination of two different forms in one form. Now, very recently, genealogists are trying to have a combination of that kind, and the idea they have drawn from India's spiritual scriptures. The idea of Nrisingha has gone into the mind of the genealogists, and they are now trying on that, trying to find out a genetic combination wherein whether they can create that kind of form or not. I hope that someday they will be in a position to do that. Let them do. It's good. And then they will understand that the Indian civilization was so powerful in the scientific terms. It was so long term in the scientific terms. Sergeant Marshall, when he was there in, the excavation of Harappan and Mohenjo-daro sites appointed by the government, British government from England, he was there, and later on a group of scholars headed by Rakhal Das Bandyopadhyay from University of Calcutta, they were there. After almost a period of 8-9 years of total excavation, and when more or less an idea was formed about the thing, what are these things, and they were really surprised, and then Marshall came up with his own writing about it. The first writing that he came up with, which has been given as an example, as a kind of reference in one of our publication, Veda Vigyaner Govire, in the first article only it has been given. There will find Marshall is mentioning. Later on, British government thought, okay, if Marshall's theory is allowed to continue, then India's civilization will have a superior edge. So this cannot be done. Therefore, they did not allow it to continue thereafter. But again, until that, Marshall had a clear view. He had a view that such an elaborate, urban deposit, such an elaborate cultural milieu that the people had developed, archaeological and anthropological evidences would always prove that it takes several thousands of years to develop and nurture certain thoughts and ideas. Then only this kind of replication, this kind of formations are possible. Otherwise not. This could not be overnight. Some historians and scholars have mentioned that Vedic period is a 5,000 years ago only. And this is what being continuously repeated and continuously propagated throughout the world by certain categories of scholars and being copied and referred by others. This is wrong. The Vedic period, according to, and now the scholars are proving, including one of the leading organization in France, which is actually working on that, and they have come up with a publication. In the Sottapad, we'll include that in subsequent numbers. And they have come to an understanding which Sri Aurobindo had visualized in the beginning, saying that the Vedic period cannot be lesser than 20,000 years from now in the back, and could be up to 30,000 years in the back. So it is a spectrum of 30,000 to 20,000 years in the back. And indeed true. And Harappan civilization is a part of that, is a kind of glaring development of that. The idea that Aryan and non-Aryan, and Aryan invasion was there and Ramchandra is an invader. This is a campaigning the thing. This is a thoroughly wrong concept. There is no idea of Aryan and non-Aryan. God has formed the human. Saha ikshataha manavaha. When he had a desire to create a human being, he had created the human being first and then the gods next. When the human being was created, then all forms of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas were allowed to take a shape. And these had taken shapes in different places, different forms. One category of people is Rajas, the other category of people is Sattva, the third category of people is Tamas. It's never like that. It is a combination with an emphasis to one or the other. When Sattva is given an emphasis, the person becomes a person oriented to wisdom. These are the people who were called Brahmins of the society. But unfortunately, later on, this had taken a shape of, ancestral, father being the son becomes. This was not the case. Similarly, when this Raja is a dynamism and is a, cultivating the power of energy, cultivating the power of strength. And in that, there are certain categories who could exercise the power of the muscle and power of mind. The power of mind is a category who were later on included in the first category of Brahmins. And the power of muscles and the power of other, applied things, entire series of applications, technologies, what we find that it is under the Rajas. And then came a condition where you need to allow people to have a, period of, resting. All good things should be stopped to look back and to re-examine itself. Tamas is for that. Therefore, a beat of tamas is essential for every life. Look back, re-examine, again try to certify yourself, then move forward. Tamas has a role in that. Durga comes forward with the sword in hand. Kali comes forward, Chandi comes forward with the sword in hand. What is that? The demonic forces have to be killed, but the moment you become a killer, you are a tamas. Therefore, Durga has to be a tamas. The Durga, the embodiment of the Supreme Divine in all forms, she became a killer. Goddess Kali becomes a killer. Why? Because, this is what is needed for creating a better place for her creation, making a better place for the creation. From the very beginning, the sages had that objective in the Vedic structuring of the Vedas. Rig Vedas is actually for Abahan, invocation. When it said, Om Bhagme Manoshi Pratishtita Manaha Me Bachi Pratishtita Abihi Me Ili. So the point is, you come. I'm praying for that. I'm praying for what? I'm praying for your coming down and being with me, in me, within me. Says Paila is the editor of Rig Vedas. General editor is Sage Vyasa. But then there is a segmentation. So Sage Paila is the editor of Rig Vedas. And he has been doing that. He has done that. Now look back in that Rig Vedas. In the entire Vedic period, the sages, there are 107 sages contributed to the 4 Vedas total. Of which, starting from Rig Vedas until the end of Atharva Vedas, there are 29 leading lady sages who have really contributed very significant, the fundamental issues of wisdom into that. And equally important, or sometimes more important in some cases than the others' contribution. So there has been a maligning in about India throughout the world for a long period of time, last 70, 80 years and even more. We have been hearing that, India was against the ladies. It's just the opposite. India is the only country, is the only civilization, Vedic civilization has actually taught about the highest honor for the ladies, the mother. Sri Ramakrishna has introduced the same kind of devotion in our bhakti, in our cult of devotion. The ultimate form was a kind of prema, a kind of love between God and the devotee, which is given an example of a love between the extreme love between a person male and a person female. This may create a lot of problems in mind. Sri Ramakrishna went forward and created a pure love. There's a love for the mother. When it's a love for the mother, is a pure love. And that purity of love is the supreme of its own variety, which was actually the cardinal point in the Samvedas. Says Jaimini is the editor of Samvedas. And when Paila had the Rig Vedas, Then the central theme was Prajnanam Brahma. Brahma is the Brahma Prajna. The wisdom of the Supreme is the depiction of the Supreme to the mind and the consciousness of the person trying to have a realization of the Supreme. It was actually understood by Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, and then he thought that, okay, there will be some people who would carry this message forward because the condition of the society was at that time was against the Vedic ideas and Vedic truth. So there was a need to have a monastery, and he created two types of monasteries, Ban and Aranya. Ban and Aranya, these are the two types of monasteries initiated by Acharya Padmapad and with the center at Sridham Puri in the state of Odisha now. Now, is that the Ban and Aranya, there were certain differences. We had a long discussion one day on a Sunday, one of the Sundays in this forum. The differences between Ban and Aranya. The basic fundamental difference between Ban and Aranya under Rig Vedas is that Prajna is distributed across, which you can identify through the symbolic positions of Prajna. I'm simplifying this, giving a simple meaning of this, simple description of this. Say, for example, if someone is there for this Advaita Vedanta, this is actually the source of Advaita Vedanta, which Swami Vivekananda has depicted himself as, and again considers Sri Ramakrishna as Advaita Vedanta. I have an objection to that. Ramakrishna is not only an embodiment of Advaita Vedanta, but also he's a embodiment of all four areas and functional thoughts and views of thoughts and approaches of the Vedic civilization. Not only Advaita Vedanta, yes, Advaita Vedanta is one of the points. At the time of Swami Vivekananda, that was the only way to penetrate into the psyche of the Western people, and that's what he has done most accurately. And he has actually paved the ways for that. But then again, if people following him, if they put a full stop to that, then probably that would be a mistake, and that will not be a justice to Sri Ramakrishna's coming. Now, this Ramakrishna is a pure devotee. He is a devotee himself. If someone looks at his, gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, will find that the gospel, around 250 songs are there spread across all 5 volumes. Out of this, nearly 80% are the, songs of devotion, and devotion in the pure, Vaishnavic style of devotion. And he keeps on repeating some of those songs to highlight on the point. At different places, he has repeated that. And also, when he was worshipping in different forms. He was worshipping to the goddess Kali in the Kali temple. Always he used to chant the name of Mother. And at the same time, he was having a, deep connection with Lord Krishna and Sri Radhika. So Radha Krishna temple. And at the same time, he was immersed in the thoughts of Lord Shiva, Shakti, and Shiva. And his origin is Raghubir Ram, from the childhood, from his family. So one can understand that he is a composite of many things together, not a single thing. And that's the truth about our Vedic, origin. Rig Vedas talks about Prajnanam Brahma, and that's the origin of, Advaita Vedanta. But the next comes as the Jaiminis. Jaiminis Samveda. And in the Samveda, Jaimini says Tattvamasihi. Tattvamasi. You and this as you, me as you, I am you, you are me. So we march. And that was actually, given a responsibility to Sureshwar Acharya by Shankaracharya. And Shankaracharya had come up with, Tirtha and Ashram, these two classifications. As I mentioned, Bon and Aranya, that, you need a symbolic thing, a person who is following that. Then you have in the, Aranya, what you find is the big, big trees, and then you can have an identification mark. So you have a locator. When you are lost in the jungle, you have a locator. That's an Aranya. Big, big trees are there, some 500 years, some 800 years, some 200 years, some 1,000 years, like that. And in the Ban, in a jungle, you get lost, meaning it's of diversity, many things. So when there is an indicator of that, when there's a pathfinder in that, then it becomes a Ban category. When you are actually searching from the grassroots, then it becomes a Aranya category. I'm sorry, the Aranya category is the first, Ban category is the next. So I repeat, Aranya category is one when you have an indicator, meaning the pathfinder is there. Somebody is there who shows you the way, and then you follow that. So you come out of the jungle. And when it is not there, in the sense of that, you have to have a, searching so intense to the grassroots, then it becomes a Ban. And this Ban and Aranya, these two are the same. You are looking for the Pragya. Pragyanam you are actually looking at, but then you are searching from a different perspective. So either you are there in Aranya with a symbolic personality standing before, or you don't have any, or you don't consider, or you don't have a faith in that. So you are searching out as a Ban. So you search out. So those who are doing a meditation in a guha, meaning Himalayan caves, they're actually the people who are actually into this Ban. And those who are actually traveling people, and they know that the divine has shown this way. Maybe Lord Shiva has shown me this way. I want to reach, go up to the Kailash, and I want to be around Kailash, and I want to be there. That's a Aranya category. So the symbolic person is there. Lord Shiva is standing over there. So I want to follow him. I want to get a realization of Lord Shiva over there. And if I may get this, then I'll be graced. I'll consider myself as graced by the God. So these are the things under Rig Vedas. When it comes to Samveda, then as Sureshwar Acharya has, was given the responsibility of Tirtha and Ashram. Now, Tattvamasi, Samveda is a, area of devotion. It cultivates the devotion. Bhagavat comes under Samveda. The entire cult of Krishna and, this bhakti, the devotion, the cult of devotion comes under Samveda. Samveda is a Samgan. Samgan, this is known as Song of Sam, meaning the Udgit. The name given is Udgit. Udgit is a song which comes out from your heart. Udgit is a heart blade song, a song that comes through the bleeding of the heart. The heart bleeds for God. Oh God, I can't remain without a view of yours. Oh God, I can't, contain my life without the view of yours. Oh God, I cannot remain in this human abode without your, touch of spirituality. So this is what is a heart blade Udgit. This is known as the Udgit. And from there, the Bhagavatam, the entire Bhagavatam had, appeared from there. The son of Vasudeva, Shukdev Goswami, he was assigned the responsibility to depict that, and he did that most effectively, which composed a part of this Samveda. Samvedas, this cult of devotion, is a devotion to God. There are two forms of devotion. There are many other ways. There are two gross, divisions in the ways of devotion. One is the, identified, God identified as someone. Maybe God, for example, Tamevo Mata Cha Pita Tamevo. So you identify God as someone. God is identified as someone. Now, when Sureshwar Acharya was there, then Tirtha and Ashram was there. ashram is a place where you have a, destiny. You have a person to look after you. So you give unto God. What you have to do. Yes, I am doing the thing which is destined to me by God, and I give unto God. I am not there to take care of myself. If I have to take care of myself, then why do I, think of God? I will think of God, and I will not think of anything else of the world. I will think of God and God alone. And if I may do that, then I am a person who belongs to a category of ashram. That's the ashram. Ashram is not the monastery building. Ashram is not the wearing of saffron clothes. Ashram is not the, ringing the bell, ghanta, and then having things on time and all rituals. Ashram is my identity of my God. Ashram is my being, with my God within my heart. Ashram is what I am always aligned to God. That is an ashram. And then other category is tirtha. Tirtha is, you explain it like, there are monastery organization, and I would, one in the Indian organization has now become very, very strong global, and it's present everywhere in the world now. All major countries and even small, small countries is now there chanting the name of Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, and it's there. They are doing a tirtha. They creating tirtha, meaning wherever they are present with the message of the Lord, and invites people that, oh people, you come and chant the name of this Lord, the Lord Krishna, and you get drenched in that, and you will find you are removed from all evils of the world, and you will get your bliss in the world, in a blissful mind you will achieve. So that's what is the tirtha. There are two categories. One is tirtha, the other one is ashram. Ashram is someone who is within himself, within herself, and having God, having a feel that God is there within the heart, and that person is actually a realized person. A person who has created the ashram within the heart is a realized person. She or he is a Brahmogani. These are very rare, but there are people. So this is about the Samvedas. Tattvamasi is the central theme of this. Then comes our the next one is Jujur Veda. Jujur Veda very fortunately had two divisions. One is Shukla Jujur Veda, the other one is Krishna Jujur Veda. Shukla Jujur Veda came up from this sage Janghavalkya. Janghavalkya is a profound sage. He came up with the first university of human society, human world, and that too with a very large number of people in his university for the Samavartan. And in the Samavartan, he had introduced three things which his master, also this Krishna Jajur Veda, also they had followed the same three things, Vaishampayan. So then what are those three things? One is Satya, the other is Dharma, the third is Samajam Shasanam. Satyang Badaha, Dharmang Charaha, Samaji Amshasanam, Abritam. What is that? You make a promise. What is that promise? The promise is you follow truth in your life. You have earned the Brahma Gyan. You have to follow truth in life. This is the first promise that you have to make. The second promise, Dharmachara, meaning you will follow the principles of righteousness in your life. Never do harm for anybody. Never think bad for anyone. Never do a bad thing in your life. Never think of any bad thing in your life. Always in your karma, you have a Vishuddha karma, meaning the pure work. And in that, what you do is you always dedicate your karma, your work unto God. So this is first two. The third one is very important, Samajavan Swasnam. Meaning what? You are there to maintain the balance of the society. You have to maintain society. You create a social unity in the society. The sage is telling his or her, disciples, that you have now earned your knowledge. You will obviously get your earning from the society. Now with the knowledge you will get, and you have to marry, you have to be there in the society, you have to maintain and create a good society with good people in the world, and yet you will be realized in God. God realization does not occur in a place other than the society. Those who are preaching and spreading the concept that, a kind of division, that there are people who are living in society in the homes, they are a little bit lower, they can't attain God, they will do some practice and etc. We shall advise. We are the people living in the monasteries, we are there for God. It is just the opposite. If someone aspires to have a realization of God, ultimately, truly, has to come back to the society and be a part of the society, be into the work continuously and continuously in the midst of everything in the society, yet devoid from the desires into that. Lord Krishna is mentioning, Mai sarvani karmani sang nasyaha udvatva chetosaha. Mai sarvani karmani sang nasya. You have to be into the work aggressively. Karma tag is not the way. Karma grahan is the way. Extreme karma grahan is the way. But where is the difference? That karma grahan is what? You have to dedicate this unto God. Mai sarvani karmani sang nasyaha. You dedicate all the works to God. He's telling, oh Arjuna, you do the work. But yes, don't do it for your personal gain. Dedicate unto me. I am there to take care of things. So karma, intense karma, but dedicated to God. This uniqueness has to be developed. If someone is there to aspire for God, has to have this way. So Yajurvedas, Krishna and Shukla Yajurveda, both together, they came up with the central theme is Aham Brahmasmi. And this Aham Brahmasmi, Shankaracharya came up with the three different streams of people, Saraswati, Bharati, Puri. Sri Ramakrishna belongs to Puri category. And most of the leading spiritual persons from eastern part of India are from Puri category. This is a kind of regional division, but then doesn't have much of differences in the thoughts and in the factors of realization. Aham Brahmasmi is a point where you feel a union with God, and it's not a selfish affirmation. It's nothing connected with the ahang or the selfish consideration of the person. It is but getting deluged in the personality of God. That is Aham Brahmasmi. I am there, merged in you, O the Brahman, O the Supreme God. So this is what is the ultimate thoughts. But then sages thought that, okay, we need to have an application of this in human life. So there should be some stream of thoughts, some stream of practice, which is an application. Atharva Veda came, Atharvan, sage, and this has a ultimate point. Ayam Atma Brahma. From there, that is derived as Jivatma and Paramatma. Differentiated, yet non-differentiated. Based on this, the streams that had emerged is Tantra, Yoga, Patanjali Yoga Shastra, and now worldwide yoga is going on, is a part of, it's originated from Atharva. Tantra is there, very profound in India, in Tibet, in Egypt, in some other part of the world. Shaiva, worship of Lord Shiva. Ganapatya, worship of Lord Ganapati. These are the streams which have actually derived from the Atharva Vedas. Ayamatma, Brahman. Jivatma and Paramatma are the same, but worshipping the Paramatman requires the Jivatman to be deluged in the consciousness of the Supreme in the form of a truth. Shankaracharya came up with 3 different streams, Giri, Parvat, Sagar. These 3 have got 3 specific meaning. Giri are the people who are mostly into the Tantra, or some kind of Tantra having influenced in their process. Parvat and Sagar both are, in the infinite dimensions, having their, impact in the yoga. And all these 3, Giri, Parvat, Sagar, meaning Giri, Parvat, Sagar, all these 3 streams are common in the Shiva worship, because Shiva is infinite. It's been mentioned, Asita Giri Shamasya, Kajalang Sindhu Patre, Surataru Shakha, Likhita Gritva Jodi Sarada Sarvakale, Tadopi, Param Najati. The Lord Shiva, Vasishtha was mentioning the qualifying terms of Lord Shiva. He came to the conclusion that if Mother Saraswati herself starts writing using the entire sea as the ink, the Himalaya as the pen, and all the available places in the entire cosmic world, including the leaves of trees which are available and the entire surface of the entire cosmic world, she completes the writing of qualifying terms about Lord Shiva. Even then she cannot come to the end of it, infinite. So ultimately Shiva stands. Now this Vedic wisdom, Vedasar is Brahman. Vedasar is realization of God. Vedasar is understanding God in our own life and works. Vedasar is invocating God within the cave of our heart. Vedasar is love for God, dedication unto God. Vedasar ultimately is being in the consciousness of God in all our thoughts, our actions, our initiatives, everything. That's what is the Vedasar, the essence of the Vedas. Let human society try to understand this. It is our responsibility to take it forward. If the human civilization has to survive for a longer period, the only way is to come back to the Vedas and draw inspiration from the Vedas. O the God, O the Supreme Truth, O the Supreme Lord, I pray unto you to allow this free flow of realization to those who want to have that. Namaskar. We shall do chanting now. আমরা এবার বেদমন্ত্র পাঠ করব। Om मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो निवासि प्रतिष्ठिता
Om Bhagave Manasi Padishita Maname Vasi Padishitam
आभिः मेधि
Abhi
वेदस्य मानि सह श्रुतमे मा प्रहसिह
Vedasame Anasrutam Mema Prohasi
अनेनोदितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्ददामि
Anena Uditenam Ahoratram Sambhavami
रीतं वदिष्यामि सतं वदिष्यामि
Rizang Vadishami Satyam Vadishami
तद्मामवतु तद्भक्तारामवतु
Tatmam Avatu Tadavataram Avatu
अवतु माम् अवतु भक्ताराम् अवतु भक्ताराम्
Avatu Mama Avatu Bhaktaram Avatu Bhaktaram
ओम शांति शांति शांति
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
ओम आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणचक्षुः
Om Apayanto Mamo Angani Bhago Prana Chaksu
श्रोत्रमथः बलम् इन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदाम्
Sarva Brahmam Upanishadam
माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यात् मामा ब्रह्म निराकरो
Maham Brahmo Nirakujyat Mama Brahmo Nirakara
निराकरणमस्तु निराकरणमेऽस्तु
Aniramantu Anirakaramayantu
नमस्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु
Dharmante Moisantu
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति
Om Shanti Shanti
ॐ पूर्णमादाः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते
Om Purnamado Purnamidam Purnam Purnamudachyate
पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
Purnasya Purnamadayo Purnamidam
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Om Shanti Shanti
ॐ सहनो भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु
Om Sahanavatu Sahanavatu
वीर्यं करवावहै
Sarvavidyam Karavai
तेजस्विनो अधीतमसु मा विद्विषावहै
तेजस्विनावधितमन्तु मा विद्विषावहै
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
शान्ति शान्ति
ॐ शां नो मित्रः शां वरुणः शां नो भवति अयोमः
ॐ शौनमित्रो शम्भुर्न शम्नो भवति अजमा
न इन्द्रः बृहस्पतिः शां नो विष्णुरुक्रमः
शौनो इन्द्रो बृहस्पति शौनो विष्णुरक्रमा
नमः ब्रह्मणे नमः देवाय
नमो ब्रह्मणे नमोते वायु
तमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि
तमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मोऽसि
त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि
तामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि
रीतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि
रीतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि
तद्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु
तत् माम् अवतु
अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्
अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणां देवा
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिर्यमदेवा
भद्रं पश्येमाक्षवीययोत्रः
भद्रं पश्यामि अखिलयत्रता
हृदयाङ्गै तुष्टवांशतनोभिः
वीराङ्गे चतुर्भंशतनुभिः
वैष्णोदेवहितं यदायु
वैषमदविहितं यथायु
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति
আমরা এখন 2 মিনিট ধ্যান করব we shall now do meditation for 2 minutes all of us sitting in the same place where we are we do the meditation for 2 minutes only now Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. We are stopping here for the day. Next, we shall meet again next Sunday, 5:30 Indian Standard Time. Thank you all. Wish you all the best. Shabbai bhalo থাকবেন. সবাই ভালো থাকবেন.